Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Jurassic World Dominion, starring Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, DeWanda Wise, Mamoudou Athie, forgive me if I said that wrong, Isabella Sermon, Campbell Scott, B.D. Wong, Omar Sy, Justin Smith, and Daniela Pineda, directed by Colin Trevorrow. Now, welcome back to Jurassic Park. I last reviewed Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Fallen Kingdom. And I'm gonna just say this now. I have seen this movie 3 times. The first time was in IMAX, second time was in 40X, and the third time was in 3D. The 40X felt like a jerky experience, like I did with Venom Let There Be Carnage, I'll say. But the IMAX showing is a little better, but the 3D felt like crap. But thank God I took notes during it, so let's get into the movie, shall we? It's been 4 years since the events of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and almost 30 years since the original Jurassic Park. Dinosaurs ruled the world. Meanwhile, Bison Industries, led by Louis Dodgson, forgive me if I said that wrong, played by Campbell Scott, studies the dinosaurs, and the news debates whether or not we shall coexist with them or not. And here's the funny thing: this character Dick Campbell Scott plays, he was in the first one, but not played by Campbell Scott. It was a different actor. He was the one that at the beginning with Newman from Seinfeld, where they meet at an outside restaurant or something like that. I forget the character's name, but meanwhile, Clara Deering, returned by Bryce Dallas Howard, goes into Nevada with Dr. Zia Rodriguez, returned by Daniela Pineda, and Franklin Webb, returned by Justice Smith, stealing a baby dinosaur just to save them while running from their holders of the dinosaurs. And Owen Grady, returned by Chris Pratt, like Claire, is capturing dinosaurs for the same reasons Claire has. And we meet a sort of grown, like maybe 13, 14-year-old Macy Lockwood, daughter of Charlotte Lockwood. Both of the characters played by Isabella Sermon, as the present day is Maisie, and Charlotte before having Maisie as a baby, as we're going to get later in the film. But they're both played by the same actress, aka Isabella Sermon, is what I'm trying to say. If that's already wasn't confusing enough, as it wasn't, if it, as it was for me. But Maisie rides her bicycle past the bridge, behind Claire and Owen's back, and I'm going to be blunt. I don't like this story with Owen, Claire, and Macy, and every time they're on screen, their characterization is terribly obnoxious. And this beginning didn't make much sense, as I wanted this prologue we got last year at the premiere IMAX in front of the IMAX showing of F9 The Fast Saga, which I had to sneak in to see, by the way. And on YouTube, as you can look up the prologue from this movie on YouTube, which is so much better than the prologue we actually got from the movie. Blue the Velociraptor, remember her from the last 2 Jurassic World movies, had herself a baby named Beta, and that's the name Maisie gives her later in the film. And after all these years, as it trains it to hunt a rabbit, and that was caught by a wolf or something, I couldn't really tell you what that was. But Beta attacks it, and Macy is led to believe she's trapped in the household of Owen and Claire, while some hunters named Rayan Delacourt hunts for not just Macy, but Beta herself. And do I like the writing in those scenes? Absolutely not. In West Texas, a couple of kids get attacked by some dinosaurs that are bugs, and we randomly move on to Dr. Ellie Sattler, returned by Laura Dern, and all of a sudden goes to Iowa to visit Dr. Alan Grant, returned by Sam Neill, to help her go to Bison as an invite, thanks to Dr. Ian Malcolm, returned by Jeff Goldblum, and they fly from Pennsylvania to Bison. And if this was an editing 101 class in college, this thing would get an F on it, like the grade F. And I looked up the guy who edited this thing, named Mark Sanger, and he did 3 movies. One I've seen, he's done movies I've seen, 3 of them I'll say. One I liked, one that was entertaining, and one I hated. And the one I liked was Gravity, that Sandra Bullock and George Clooney space vehicle. The entertaining one was Detective Pikachu. And the one I hated was actually one I reviewed before, and that was Transformers: The Last Night. And I mean, this proves why I don't like his editing. Transformers, and now this movie. Beta and Blue visits Macy as Blue sees Owen and blacks off from them and go their own way, while Macy is upset she leaves the house and gets captured along with Beta. And it's typical of the bad guys to steal not just a dinosaur in these movies, but now a kid at the age of, I want to say, 13, 14 years old, as Owen makes a promise to Blue that they're going to get Blue's kid back, as well as Macy, and Blue attacks Owen in the hand, which was in the trailer, sure, and the suspense is now gone in this series, and there's no suspense in this movie whatsoever. Owen and Claire go to Franklin to get information about the location of Macy, as well as Rain, while Alan and Ellie go to get to Bison, I'll say, which happens to be somewhere in Italy. And the shots in this movie looked kind of choppy, and like the editing in this movie is also choppy. They meet Lewis as well as Ramsey Cole, played by, let me see if I said this guy's name this time right, Mamoudou Athie? I forget, but forgive me if I did say that wrong. As the dialogue between Ramsey and Lewis is awkwardly acted by these two actors, as they've both been in bad movies before, but this scene and the acting is pretty awkward. But don't get me wrong, whenever we see Alan, Ellie, and Ian on the same screen, it kind of glows, but not as great as the first Jurassic Park, in my opinion. Ian tells Ellie Lewis is up to something bad, and he gives her the passcode to the key, I'll say, to get in the room to successfully get the creature's DNA, and these creatures with wings, what are those things, pterodactyls as babies? Which doesn't make much sense. Lewis gets Macy on a plane while Malta, I'll say, to another place to see Dr. Henry Wu, played by B.D. Wong. But first we gotta go through Malta, where Owen and Claire meet up with Barry Sembine, returned by Omar Sy, who, like Franklin, works for the CIA, while Claire first meets Kayla Watts, played by DeWanda Wise, who's an actress I've never seen in other shows, but she's just as bad as anyone in this story with Owen and Claire, as I personally don't care for them at this time, which is a shame. Soyona Santos makes a deal with Rain as she puts a laser on the velociraptors and goes after their enemies, while Owen gets to Rain and have a fight that will end with Rain getting his arms and head bitten off screen, which was stupid, while Santos lets the velociraptors kill anyone with a red dot. But the only three people who make it out alive is Barry, Owen, and Claire, as Santos runs away and gets captured by Barry, as we don't see him for the rest of the movie, as she creates a prolonged chase scene that was very headache-worthy. Of all the 3 times I've seen this movie, the scene gave me the biggest headache of them all, as it was super choppy, as far as the editing is concerned. Kayla helps Owen and Claire go on a plane ride to rescue Macy from Bison, which is a dumb way from her not wanting to get involved to helping them out, which was dumb. And the CGI, again, well, in this show anyways, is horrible looking. Macy learns more about her mother and how she was created thanks to Dr. Wu, which makes no sense, which is the same problem I have with Star Wars The Phantom Menace, as there was no father, which makes absolutely no sense, that it bugs me to death. Maybe I'm not an expert on this, but if somebody knows something about that, please let me know. Alan and Ellie go to the laboratory and find the baby bug dinosaurs and gets a sample, while Macy gets out and causes an alarm and bumps into Alan and Ellie, as she can tell they don't work for Bison, which is a stupid cliche, I'll say, while Owen, Claire, and Kayla are trying to land on Bison, but a koala, let me see if I'm saying this right, Kowatlus, I don't know if I said that right, attacks the plane and knocks it down, and Claire gets ejected and split up from Owen and Kayla, and almost gets eaten by dinosaurs that's blind but can sense your movement, based on sound, and I swear it looked like a long neck mixed with knives in its hands as a weapon. And there's no suspense in this movie, as it was a real problem. And I just gave up on dinosaur names after that last one I just said, because I don't know what the hell to call them anymore. Ramsey gets Alan, Ellie, and Macy out of Biosin. For what reason? Because Lewis is evil, which doesn't make sense for a dinosaur movie. Owen and Kayla gets out of the plane and learns they were in the military at one point in life, and they all of a sudden get attacked by a dinosaur that can swim. And I wish they would give this one a name. Maybe they did. I just didn't pay attention. I just gave up on the names. But what I do know is it can swim, as Owen almost gets eaten by it, but Kayla saves his life, and they run and get in an elevator from the outside while Lewis fires Ian and stops the train to get out of Biosin, with Alan, Ellie, and Macy, as Ellie tells Maisie about how they first met their mother, and she thought of her as they become good friends. And am I caring about any of this? No, I'm not. Owen and Kayla bump into a T-Rex and sees a Gigantosaurus and have a brief fight as the T-Rex fight it off again. And I swear to God, I thought we were getting Jurassic Park 3 again, which bugged me. And Alan confesses he was never happy until Ellie came back to his life and bump into a dinosaur from the ladder and get attacked by a group of dinosaurs. And Alan tries to grab his hat, and I thought, just leave it as a dinosaur eats it. While Ian is on the way to them, and they get to the gate, and Ian tries to get the door opened until Ramsey opens it for them, thinking Ian did it, which is a stupid bit of comedy, I'll say. And Ian meets Maisie for the first time, and Claire gets to Biosin and bumps into the inky dinosaur from the first Jurassic Park film that killed Newman from Seinfeld in the first film, which was nice to see them again after the other movies. But I felt like Claire will survive this movie, which I was predicting the whole movie that the 8 characters were going to survive the movie, which were Owen, Claire, Macy, Alan, Ellie, Ian, Kayla, and Ramsey. And this movie is that predictable, and I can't believe it came true. Lewis burns the flying dinosaurs, and the piece of evidence Ellie had as she with Alan, Ian, and Macy reached to the edge of their car, flipped over and bumped into Owen, Claire, and Kayla. This is when the magic of the movies come together, and I unfortunately wasn't feeling it during the moment of the film. The Gigantosaurus comes towards our 7 to 8 heroes so far, and they climb to a building which will lead them inside and in a safe place until the Gigantosaurus attacks the building, and Macy gets the smart idea of passing an electric taser and points it at its eye, which was rather cliche. And we get to the original score back as this moment, which I don't care whether they brought it back or not. They go underground while Biosin is burning up, and Ramsey betrays Lewis and confesses he was the one that let Ian get to the others and set up Lewis, and Ramsey quits and joins the others. And as they go to the laboratory, where Claire and Ellie get to switch a lab where they destroy the power, while Owen, Macy, and Alan find Beta and capture her, as Ian is on the other line and the walkie-talkie, giving Ellie and Claire a button to switch the power, and Lewis is in the train on the way out until he gets eaten by the same dinosaurs that attacked Newman from Seinfeld in the first Jurassic Park. And I just didn't care for this movie, as it is dragging. It's a long movie at 2.5 hours, I must say. We get to Kayla flying a helicopter as she lands in the middle of where the Gigantosaurus is at the entrance of Biosin. And they get Dr. Wu to the helicopter, and they all join up outside and see the T-Rex fight it off again. It defeats it, as I'm like, really? We're doing this again now? As this is getting annoying. Now, the blind dinosaur with knives in its hands comes in and fights the Gigantosaurus. And all of a sudden, the T-Rex gets back up and fights the Gigantosaurus and beats it up with the dinosaur with knives in its hands. as the humans get out of there alive, and we get the T-Rex and the dinosaur with knives as hands roar together, which is probably the best fight in the whole movie, sure. Alan and Ellie go together to let the dinosaurs coexist, while Ian writes a new book and Macy goes back to Owen and Claire as her parents, and they drop off Beta to Blue as she takes off, and Dr. Wu gets the DNA of a bug-looking dinosaur to exist in this world. And dinosaurs and humans now coexist together, and the climax makes no sense as it's completely unrealistic. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.5 out of 10. The editing in this movie is choppy, as if this was the editing 101 class, it would get in a grade F on that class, as the effects looked horrible. I do like the story with Alan, Ellie, and Ian better than anything Owen, Claire, and Macy, as their characterizations from them is terrible, but Alan, Ellie, and Ian isn't anything great either. But with characters I don't care for, but the first time with any of the main characters are better the first time and not the third or fourth time, which is a real problem. The suspense has gone on from the series, no thanks to this movie, and the whole story with Charlotte giving Macy life without a guy makes no sense. Please tell me if there's something that I missed, which is the same problem with Star Wars The Phantom Menace, as it bugs the crap out of me, as it feels typical of these movies to capture dinosaurs and a kid, and it gets really old fast, as this is a complete disappointment, as I can't believe the suspense is once again gone from this series. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this Jurassic World Park series, and until, if hopefully they don't make another one after this, but until then, nobody move a muscle.